The International Monetary Fund has sent a warning to South Africa over the slow pace of economic recovery post-pandemic. It's pointed a finger at policy uncertainty, embattled power utility Eskom, and a wide range of other issues that pose a critical risk. The IMF says the country's economy is expected to grow by less than 2% this year. To talk to us more on this, we're joined now by Max Alier, who's the International Monetary Fund's resident representative in South Africa. Thank you so much for your time this evening, Max. We do appreciate it. I think many South Africans were quite concerned when they saw how a warning was issued to South Africa. You've been in discussions with our government. What was discussed? What is of great concern when it comes to our economic growth?
Good evening, Heidi. Listen, I'm not sure I would like to call it a warning. I think the situation in South Africa is well known by the population over the last decade. Even before the COVID pandemic hit, South Africa was stuck in a low level of economic growth. Private investment has lost dynamism. Unemployment is very high, poverty increased, and inequality widened. And under already challenging circumstances that existed before the pandemic, of course, the pandemic exacerbated this situation. So I don't think the recommendations we are making are very much in line with what you see are the government priorities. As you could see, for example, in the zona, many of the policies and reforms that were announced by President Ramaphosa are very much in line with what we have identified in our report.
I want us to speak about the pace of structural reforms. Does that seem to be a concern for the International Monetary Fund, especially when it comes to the state of our ports, for example, and the instability and unreliability of our power utility? It makes it very difficult for businesses to thrive or even build up from what happened because of the COVID-19 pandemic with how unreliable our electricity grid is. Is that a concern for the International Monetary Fund?
I think most definitely. I think the situation with the energy security in the country is a major concern, as it is not only for us, it's more important for South African businesses and even for the people of South Africa who have to live through the recurrent episodes of load shedding. The bottlenecks in infrastructure, in the railways, in the ports, certainly affect the competitiveness of the South African economy. And we believe these are the kind of what we call structural stumbling blocks. I mean, these limit the capacity of the economy to grow and, of course, generate jobs, and help the public finances. So we believe it is a priority to tackle these issues, to make the economy more productive, to attract investment and private investment, to, again, support economic growth, job creation, and therefore also help on the fronts of poverty and inequality.
Max, in terms of the forecast for this year in terms of economic growth, do you think South Africa will be able to achieve this forecast, or do you think that issues like electricity, our ports not functioning, and how bad our unemployment rate is at the moment, do you think this is going to impact how much our economy can actually grow or should actually grow?
Well, our projection is based on the information that we have at the moment, and we think that is what is going to happen. Like any economic projection, of course, there are risks. But there is both upside and downside. I think, obviously, on the downside, obviously, we don't know what's going to happen with COVID and potential future waves of COVID. We don't know about that. We also know the global economy is going through a change now. Global financial conditions may tighten faster than expected as a result of the faster than projected inflation that we have witnessed in advanced economies. On the other front, I think if structural reforms are accelerated, this could send positive signals and help on the investment front. In addition, commodity prices may surprise us again on the upside, as they did over the last couple of years, and that can support the economy. But as of now, given the information we have available, we believe this 1.9% we're projecting for growth this year is the best we can say. I mean, we think that's what we truly expect to happen.
Hopefully our economy grows a bit more than just 1.9%, but we'll just have to wait and see. Max, I also want to ask you a very important question. There is an aspiration to go towards a basic income grant in South Africa, and it almost looks like it's inevitable. We might not hear it this year because of the extension of the social relief grant that was extended in the State of the Nation address. But can an economy like ours afford something like a social support in a form of a grant? What does it take for a country to actually have something like this? Does it mean that we might be paying more taxes? And can an economy
more and do more with the same amount of money? And in cases more extreme, you may need to increase taxes so that you stick to this fiscal consolidation effort that will lead to the decline in public debt. But I would like to say something perhaps a little bit more fundamental. I mean, the COVID grant and all the grants are important. Obviously, there are vulnerable groups in society that they do deserve support and they do need support. But this is a short-term solution. I think what the countries like South Africa should aim at is as a permanent solution to the poverty and inequality issues. And this solution passes through job generation and job creation. And again, this goes to creating an economic environment where the private sector comes in, invests, and the economy grows. That is what we believe in the medium and long term is a sustainable and permanent solution to the issues. But again, in the short term, you may need to provide support to some groups.
Yes, certainly. And I think the key here is to create sustainable job creation so that people aren't too reliant on other social grants, for example. Just last question, Max, and I'm not sure if you're going to answer this, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Do you know if South Africa has formally asked for a loan again from the International Monetary Fund?
No, the government of South Africa has not made any request to the IMF for any financial support. We have an excellent relation with the government in the context of surveillance, like now with the Article 4 that we publish, where we provide policy advice, which of course is up to the government to decide whether to implement it or not. I mean, it is a sovereign country. Sometimes we have technical cooperation on very highly technical issues, and we're happy to do that. But there has not been any request for financial support from the IMF.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for your insights and making time for us and just explaining the interactions that you've had with the South African government when it comes to the pace of our structural reforms. That was Max Alier, who is the International Monetary Fund resident representative here in South Africa.